Good evening. I'm here with my friend, Steve Bivans, who is an author, and he has a background in warfare. He studied history in all different aspects, but he's got a very interesting background in the focus is on Viking warfare. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah. That's what I spent, I don't know, 8 years in graduate school working on.
That's an incredible.
Yep.
I don't think I've ever met anybody that's done that much focus on that, but that lends itself to your new book, which I'm very excited that you gave me a preview of. I had the opportunity to review it before tonight, and I was very intrigued with the points that I read. That book is called The End of Fear Itself, okay? And this is going to be released in the very near future. When are we looking at seeing this on Amazon?
It goes on. The official release is this Sunday on December 11th.
That is fantastic.
Noon, I believe so.
I think the topic is lends itself to very, let's put it this way. I believe 99% of the people that we are exposed to in this world have a need for this. And the end of fear itself is a very interesting topic. So tell me, why is fear so important, Steve?
Well, yeah, I ran across the topic when I was writing my first book a couple of years ago. It's called "Be a Hobbit, Save the Earth," and I won't go into all of that. But at some point, and during one of the chapters, kind of late in the writing process, I was trying to solve the world's problems, and I stumbled across, fear, and I was like, this is kind of a big deal. But I didn't have, the book was already huge, and I didn't have time to expand on it. And so it just, it was in there, touched on it, and left it, and then came back around to it. But the reason I think it's absolutely crucial is, in the thesis in the book, is essentially that there's only one problem on Earth, and that is fear. All the other problems are essentially symptoms of that. And I go into detail on why I think that's true, and try to make a very good case for it. And if we can deal with fear, then the other problems become not obsolete necessarily, but certainly much easier to solve. And so that's why I decided, back in March, I think it was on Anchor, as a matter of fact, a discussion between myself and Justin Finkelstein, and I came back around to that idea. I was like, oh my God, I really need to pick this up, and that's I was looking for another book idea, and I was like, I need to get back to that, and so here we are.
And fear is the crux of war to a great extent. So we tie that concept together, right?
Yeah, all war is based on fear entirely. All of it. I mean, there's economic factors and all that, but even the economic factors are undergirded by fears, which I go into as well in the book. So, all of our major issues on the planet are fear driven. If you really dig down into it and think about them, they all come out of some kind of fear of one kind or another.
And I really like the perspective, because, who better to write a book than someone that's been through the actual experience from a background in studying war and also understanding it yourself. I'm sure personally you've dealt with fear in your lifetime, as I have.
Yeah, no one hasn't. I mean, well, I've heard of a couple of people actually don't feel fear during my research, but they're very, very rare people. All of us deal with fear pretty much every day and a lot of times we don't think of it as fear. We think of it as irritations or whatever. But even our mildest irritations are really based on a fear response of some sort or another. And I go into that a good bit during the book too. So yeah, it all comes back to that. And so, so on a global level, we need to deal with fear. But, one of the things I say in there is you can't legislate against fear, right? I mean, it's been tried many, many, many millions of times and failed every time because you just simply can't do it. It doesn't work. So what you have to do is you have to approach fear on an individual level, one person at a time. It's the only way to solve anything, really, is a grassroots thing. And everyone has to look inside themselves and deal with their own fears and face them. And a lot of times discover what they are, because most of us are walking around with fears that are subconscious that we have no idea that we
develop at a very young age, for sure. So
most of the time, yeah.
Basically, you've answered this question, but I was going to ask you, who should read this book? Who should read it?
If you're breathing.
That's the conclusion I came to as well.
If you can read English, right? If you can read English, I guess, because it's not been translated in any other languages yet. Hopefully, it will before too long. But yeah, I mean, everyone deals with fear. I'm sure there are exceptions to the rule, but they only prove it. Everyone else, like you said, at least 99%.
99%.
Everyone.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I would love to see it as a primer in the school system. I think it needs to be a part of the curriculum where if people could deal with fear at a very young age, what a great gift it would be to give to a student in high school. You know what I mean? If they can go through.
There's a lot of things you taught in high school.
Right? Yeah. Oh, there's exactly a number of things for sure.
Yeah. And in order to achieve, any kind of success in any part of your life, in any area of your life, whether that's work or business or personal or health, mental health, you have to deal with fear. And we deal with it every day, whether we want to or not, or whether we're really trying to or not. Because if we don't accomplish anything. And most of us do, but almost all of us are struggling in one of those areas, right? At least one, if not all of them. And it's because of fear. And if you can dig those out and deal with them, life become a lot easier. That doesn't mean there aren't challenges, and it don't mean new fears might not come up. But if you've already dealt with all of your, previous baggage of fear, then any new ones that pop up are, pretty easy to deal with. That's the theory.
That's phenomenal. Now, what do you think are some key points that people will get out of reading the book?
Well, one is there's several. One is that I deal with what I call the 5 myths about the world's problems. Try to see if I can remember them now. The first one is that there are too many of them, too many problems to solve, and that they're too complicated. In actuality, they're not. There's not that many. There's really one problem, and that is fear. All the other major problems, as I said, are at the root are based in fear. If you can deal with that, go for the root, the rest of them become easier to deal with. And I use a metaphor of a tree in the book, tree of fear and the forest of fear. And I talk about the different parts of the tree as the way I, essentially structure fear, from what I call a seed of fear all the way up through the trunk and into the branches and the fruits. And the fruits are really the stuff we see every day that we deal with: fear, failure, and all the stuff that most of us could probably rattle off a whole long laundry list of that we know about, right? This is what we see, it's the fruit we eat every day, basically, this nasty fruit. But those can be grouped into branches in different categories. And then there's a trunk, and then there's roots, and at the bottom there's a seed. And it really, you pull the seed out, the rest of the tree pretty much topples over.
Mm.
So that's one thing. The 5 myths is really fear. The fear is it's too complicated. That's another myth. It's not really not when if you work backwards, which is it seemed pretty complicated when I began the process for sure. But after analyzing it, what I try to do is unexplain fear, because things are only complicated when you try to explain them in words. I know you deal with this all the time as you're a tech guy. People go, how does this work? It's like, you know how it works and you can make it work, but explaining how it works, that's when it becomes complicated.
That's when it's complex.
It's the same way. So of course I'm doing with words, trying to unexplain it, from the complicated down to the simple. And I think I did. I think I managed it about as well as probably could be done with words. So those are two of the biggest points in there. And the big takeaway, though, is the last section of the book, what I call "You're a lumberjack and you're okay." Dave from the Monty Python skit, which most of our viewers probably never even heard of. A lot of the young ones anyway. But it's basically, how do we take this tree down? And I've collected quite a few methods from various psychologists and coaches and therapists, some of the best in the world, and compiled them in a way that they deal with different aspects of fear, and there's some really tried and true methods in there. So I think they'll be you can find these, right? But they're spread out.
The fact that you've compiled it. One of the most valuable things that you offer, and you offer this for free as a member of your list, I guess, and that's the worksheet that you can go through, that personal analysis. And it's a 2-page piece. I don't know if you offer that to anyone that goes to your website or whether that's a function of your book, but tremendous value.
I don't think I have it set up as a link on the website when people land there yet. It will be soon. But it is, there's a link in the book to what I call a fearless life purpose worksheet or mission worksheet. And I've taken, I ran across a series of like 30 questions. This is probably about 3 years ago, that shook me up. I mean, it was online, and there's it was a blog article or something. It was like 30 questions to answer before you die. And I'd taken those and I boiled them down to focus on figuring out, why do we do what we do? What is your life purpose, your mission? Because most people don't. I mean, I was 48 3 years ago, and I had no clue what my mission in life was, which is a sad statement from a grad student and and somebody that age, right? And I was like, what am I doing? I don't even know.
Many people follow a path that they're put on, and they follow it because it was the easy way for them to go, and not necessarily the best way for them to go. And a lot of that was directed by the fear that they were dealing with, and it was just pushing them away from what they really truly wanted to accomplish. So
you lose sight of those early dreams. When you were a child, or when you're young, teenager or whatever, things that you're like, oh, this is what I want to be, right? And you forget them. Sometimes. I mean, it depends on when you forget them, I guess, but we lose sight of them. And I know I did. But these questions will bring out, and they're simple questions. Well, they're simply written.
Yes, they're not easy to answer, but they're very simple to deal with. Yeah,
because they will dig out, a lot of crap from the mind. And I mean, the ones up on the sheet are really focused on positive stuff. I mean, the 30 question one, there's a lot of stuff in there digging out all kinds of negative stuff too, useful. But finding life purpose, I don't think you necessarily need to deal with that. That's in the book, though. there's
Yeah.
plenty of questions in the book that are going to dig out, tough to deal with stuff. I mean, it is hard when you start dealing with your fears. It's a dark forest, man, and you better have some axes, and it helps to have a lumberjack leading through it. And like I say in the book, I'm not some Zen master of whatever. I'm not a Zen master of any kind. I haven't mastered all my fears. I mean, one of the reasons I wrote the book was I knew, I had plenty of fears to deal with, and I knew from that, so does everyone else, right? I mean, just from the people I know, and you look at the world, it's pretty easy to see. Fear is rampant. And so, I was like, okay, how do I deal with my own? And if I can do that, if I can figure that out, it'd be pretty useful to a whole lot of people, billions. So that's kind of the reason I set off on the path to begin with. And it was a tough path. There were times in there where I was like, is this any good, right? I mean, where am I going with this, right? I was like, am I insane to even attempt to explain fear in this way? Because I couldn't find anybody else that really kind of zeroed in on it.
Yeah.
Lots of people talk about fear. Don't get me wrong, it's everywhere. And that's the weird thing. It's everywhere. But, when we talk about the world's problems, we don't talk about fear. Not as the topic. But it's there. It's an elephant in the room stomping on us. And no one says, hey, maybe we should deal with this elephant.
Yeah. People want to dance around the subject, but the fact that if you take the time to address it and address your own fears and understand that fear is ruling not just yourself, but the people that you deal with on a daily basis, it will make your communication skills and empathy and understanding and relationships probably a whole lot stronger. Now, tell me something. The people that will read your book will likely have a need for support. Do you have an interest in helping those people? Is that something you do, or would that be something better suited for someone else to deal with?
No, absolutely, I do. I'm a what I call a fearless life coach, and I mean I coach on very different topics, but it always comes back to fear. That's one of the other things that keep coming up as I deal with clients, and so I knew I was like, this is a big deal, So if we can, I always bring it back. I always dig for that when I'm dealing with clients. And towards the end of the book, there's right at the end, there's a little chapter called, hire your own lumberjack or whatever. Because I mean, a lot of times this stuff's hard to do. I mean, I've done a lot of it myself, right? Self-improvement. But it's tough, but I haven't done it all myself. I have a coach. My coach is Bobby Kuntz, who you know from Hank as well, who's just phenomenal and just totally different style than me, mind you. He's Mr. Positive, inspirational guy, and I'm more or less the kind that's gonna look you in the eye and go, really? Bullshit. Right? I'm going to call it, and I do it to him. I actually coach each other sometimes, and it's, I'm like, really, man, give me some straight answers here.
Every coach needs a coach. There's no question about it. And every player needs a coach, and every coach needs a coach. So it's important for people to deal with, and the quicker they can get to the winning goal line with this understanding and information, I think the better. And your book certainly gets them and guides them through the start. So I highly recommend that people investigate this. How are they going to learn about this a little more, Steve? Should they come to your website, The End of Fear Itself by Steve Bivans? And your website is stevebivans.com. stevebivans.com, right? And if they go to that website, they'll be able to get links to you. They'll be able to get information more about the book. And goes on sale this coming Sunday, the 11th. Now,
Yep.
that's a great thing, great opportunity, and it'll make a great holiday gift for anybody that's interested. I would highly recommend it. From what I've seen in the preparatory work that I did, this book is awesome. And Steve, I congratulate you on it. I think it's a great piece of work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for joining me tonight, Steve. And I look forward to talking to you more after the book hits the street. We'll follow up. Okay?
Thanks a lot, Avi. Appreciate it.
Take care, man. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Good night.